happening? Well, of course, the army has been boasting recently that it's going to be using e-bikes on the battlefield to help preserve the environment. But the other thing that we're still paying attention to is what appears to be the military getting involved in social media. Now, I've got a little film clip here of a military man talking. I've put in some subtitles because the audio is very poor. But let's just get a little bit of an impression about what this man has to say.
Today, I want to spend a few minutes talking to you about considerations for the tactical military exploitation of social media. But please note here that when I talk about the tactical, I don't always mean the face of the enemy. As we've just heard, there is very real value and very real use in social media in the humanitarian assistance and disaster relief area, and also influencing the soldiers in the home base. So, how can social media be exploited to support tactical actions? To maximise the utility of social media, you need to use it socially. It should not be used as another delivery platform for traditional media products and press releases. Perhaps lost the ability or the incentive to read reams and reams of paper. The visual means is clearly the future. Just look at the propaganda spread by the Islamic State. It requires no words, the message is clear from the pictures alone. I think the social media exploitation can be divided into two categories, passive and active. Within passive exploitation, one might consider the intelligence preparation of the environment, monitoring of that environment, and collecting intelligence or insight. Within the active exploitation sphere, one might consider engaging with your target audience, and again that could be soldiers, sailors, service people at home, or it could be victims of a natural disaster.
Well, there we are. I found this a fascinating little clip. I don't know who the gentleman was speaking. I don't know where it took place, but it did take place in the last few days. But he was saying some things which I found astonishing. One of which is that the target might be an enemy. He's talking military language, tactics. Could be an enemy, but it could be the soldiers at home. So what I saw very clearly was this is talking about grooming troops so that they can only follow the government line. What else did you pick up there,
the big
Alex?
tell for me, I'm always linguistically clued up, as you know, Brian, is that the first noun that was used was more for why people don't read, he said reams of paper, that's just over-exaggeration, why people allegedly don't read documents anymore, is because they've lost the ability. You know, that's the throw hands up in horror, oh, people these days, what are the schools doing? Then he gets a bit more honest and a bit Freudian and says they've lost the incentive. So in other words, if you told people your job depends on reading this manual, you jolly well will be able to. I remember, when as a teenager, noticing that it was adults above us who were saying, oh, your generation will never read. If there was an incentive, like to digest the contents of a difficult book in order to appear cool, suddenly my peers got a magic ability to read. But of course, no, we're going back to Edward Bernays and what's the word, semiotics, suggestion by images.
Yes. So, well, we'll follow this through, but of course what we're really concerned about is the Army and 77 Brigade in particular monitoring and interfering with civilian social media. Let's remind ourselves what General Sir Nick Carter, who was the then Chief of the Defence Staff, had to say in April 2020. He said, we've been involved with the Cabinet Office Rapid Response Unit with our 77 Brigade helping to quash rumours from misinformation, but also to counter disinformation. So this is the Army at the time working alongside the government. And what was the target? The target was, amongst others, the British public. And I'll just follow that up with a look at the appalling Ministry of Defence Twitter page. I know it's called X, but I'm going to call it Twitter, where the Ministry of Defence is using the exact techniques that that army officer is talking about in order to affect the minds of not only people within the armed forces, but also civilians in the wider UK public, which are going to this site to gain information. And what I've said here is that they're influencing the UK public with propaganda via simple, skewed, emotive social media messages. And the example I've chosen there, of course, is the soldier who's signing a Ukrainian flag at the end of training in UK. And unfortunately, what the Ministry of Defence doesn't say is that young soldier is probably going home to Ukraine to die on the battlefront. So where do we go from there? Germany, are they going to get involved?